Hello and thank you for joining us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday, Democracy Day Special. I'm Ayodele Uzubakum. Today on the program, we'll discuss 2021 Democracy Day to broaden the discourse on the value of June 12 and its lessons for socio-political growth of Nigeria. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adewale Adeoye. So, happy democracy, gentlemen. Babajide, June 12, 28 years down that line, 28 years down the line. It's like something is now becoming somebody that was born 28 years ago.
It's a fully grown adult. And it just seems like yesterday. But one thing that gives me joy is that it has remained the authentic Nigerian Democracy Day. Even when we had May 29, in the hearts of many Nigerians, that was the real Democracy Day. And it has pleased God to use President Muhammadu Buhari to make June 12 by law the official Democracy Day of our country. And this is the second anniversary of June 12 as Democracy Day. And it gladdens our hearts.
And it's on Saturday, but the federal government still had to declare a public holiday on Monday.
Yes.
To show you that, look,
to show
business.
To show the whole world that they give so much value, so much assent to June 12 as Democracy Day. If public holiday was not given, it could just pass as any other day. But to underline the fact that this is our Democracy Day by law, the government had to do what it did, so that Nigerians would appreciate the value of June 12 as our Democracy Day.
Successive administration since 1999, from that 1999, they've done everything just to make sure that June 12 is seen as a sectional celebration, is seen as something that, history will not remember in Nigeria. And because the way they behaved, talking about even the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, throughout, he did not acknowledge that day. Yeah. Well, as God will have it now, President Muhammadu Buhari, that did not play any role during that struggle, actually decided to glamorize this June 12.
I think we knew all along that one day, someone will realize the importance of June 12, that it was a matter of time. And we are not surprised that at the fullness of time, the date was recognized by the federal government. It's unfortunate that even President Obasanjo, that came from the same state with Abiola, did not see the importance. So I think there's no way you can suppress truth forever. At one time or the other, people will come to realize the fact that there was an historical event on June 12 that cannot be swept under the carpet.
So let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. On the 12th of June, Nigerians celebrate Democracy Day. The date remains a watershed in the country's political journey. As Nigeria celebrates the second edition of the new Democracy Day and the 28th anniversary of that historical election in 1993, regarded as the freest and fairest in our history, it evokes different significance and value for many. But what is June 12 to you? Babajide, anytime you think about June 12, as I was entering the studio, I asked Wale Adeoye, I said, where were you on the 12th of June? 1993. So let's start from that, please.
Yes, I was in Kano. As a cub reporter in Kano. I was still trying to find my feet. I had barely spent 6 months in the town, not up to 6 months in the town, because just 6 months before then, I was even still chairman of the Democrat newspapers, NUJ channel.
6 months before that, June 12.
Yes, an election that I won while in my mid-20s and defeated somebody from the core north. I became the first Yoruba person to win an election of that magnitude in that part of the country. So then I got the job of the news, and I had to leave. I remember the late Samala Issa Funtua, who was our chairman, saying, "You are their chairman, and you are the one leading them out of the company." I still remember vividly, you know, the way he looked into my eyes during a meeting with workers. And I was fighting for the rights of workers, even as somebody who had just finished youth service a few years after. So I was in Kano still trying to find my feet, and this election came. I covered the election in Zoo Road, where I used to live. I was living in our quarters, Zoo Road. I covered the election there, covered the election in the government house polling station in the Nasarawa area of Kano, moved around to Sabongeri just to feel the mood of the people on that day. And then I returned to the Zoo Road area to try and get some information about the counting of ballots and all that. It was an enjoyable election because of option A4, you see clearly who is voting for who. In fact, and people were even exchanging banters. You see people from the same household lining up in different places.
That great option A4.
Yes. So you see people there on the queue making fun of one another. Where you will see today that we are going to defeat you. You know, it was fun. And it was particularly significant to me because I had interviewed just a few days to the election. My boss, one of my bosses in Lagos, Ike Okonta, the writer, came down to Lagos, to Kano, and we interviewed Bashir Tofa in his house. And he was very confident of winning the election. So I then went to the polling unit in front of his house. I wanted to see what would transpire on the day. And lo and behold, Abiola defeated Bashir Tofa in the polling station in front of his house by an audacious margin.
Audacious margin?
Yes. That, to me, set the tone for what we were going to see. Because before then, a few weeks before then, the late Chukwemeka Ojukwu came to Kano, and they invited us journalists to Central Hotel, to his suite in Central Hotel, and he was campaigning for the NRC.
Kimba himself?
Yes. And I told him while he was campaigning, I said, see, you've always wanted a Southerner to become president. Now, this is the best chance. This is the best chance for a Southerner to become president in several decades. And you have now begun to campaign against that Southerner. Because Tell magazine in the week of the election.
Ironical to what it stands for.
Yes.
What he was fighting for.
Yes. Even as a small boy, I confronted him at that press conference. I said, why must it be you? You granted Tell an interview where you were saying, why should a part of the country without a big river be producing the chief of naval staff? He was referring then to Baba Mimongoro. He was referring to Baba Mimongoro at that time. You know, yes. So I said, now a Southerner, the North has made up his mind that this thing should go to the South. You are now working against that. So you could look at my audacity and he said, see, I have no regret. The reason I'm doing this is because I can seal Igbo blood on the other ballot. I mean, a Christian blood on the other ballot. Yes, and I can see Igbo blood on that ballot.
His deputy.
You know, because Sylvester Ugo was Christian, Sylvester Ugo, Igbo. He said the other ballot does not represent Christians. That is Abiola and Babagana.
Meanwhile, the Christians didn't mind.
No, nobody was.
If
the people of the North could reject their own son, Bashir Tofa, he had never offended them because they had never given him a position where Bashir Tofa misbehaved. But if they could reject him because they felt Abiola was better, here was someone now close to that election, campaigning around. He went to Sabongeri, went to even from Kano, he went to Jos, and he was saying, no, this is not the time for this thing to go to the south. And for me, I was surprised. Even as a young boy then, why is this happening? So I confronted him, and that was his defense. I said, okay. But and I also told him, I said, you will lose this election, sir. I told him right there. I said, you will lose this election, sir. Because from the mood of the nation, it was clear. And Rimi granted Tell an interview. It was their cover interview the week of the election, where Rimi said, it is the turn of the South. I'm sure. So with that, we knew that something was going to happen.
Well, what is June12 to you?
Well, I think June12 means a lot. At that time, I was with the Guardian newspapers.
Guardian?
Yes. And I was covering politics and also defense. So my mandate at that time, I was very new in the media profession. And I was covering the election. And we were all looking out for, a very good outing, because we had been under military tyranny for 7 years with so many atrocities. The economy was in ruins. Newspapers were closed, for years, for months. There was SAP. There was so many cases of human rights violations. NSC had been banned and unbanned, and so was banned. So Nigerians were tired, and they wanted someone that will symbolize their freedom. And even before that election, there had been so many primaries that were cancelled.
Yes.
Yaradua, all of them, because the military wanted the military wanted an election that will produce somebody that will represent and defend their own interests. They never knew that Abiola was a man of his words, a man of the people. He mounted a highly sophisticated campaign machinery. That's Abiola. All over the country.
1993.
The campaign slogan, the campaign strategy, the media strategy, the consultation with the masses, the consultation with different layers of Nigerians. So I think at the end of the day, we knew that he was going to win that election. Because before that election was annulled, we had received reports from 14 states, before eventually, when the federal government, the military noticed that, Abiola was winning, then they had to cancel the election. So I think, from the result we got later on, the total vote was about 14,293. 14,293,396. Out of which Abiola won 8,341,309, representing 58%. And Tofa won 5,952.087, representing 41.64%. And interesting about that election was that, like Jibagidi said, Abiola won, he defeated Tofa in Kano with a margin of about 15,000 votes. Abiola won some of the core northern states, the traditional, northern states. He won, and interestingly too, Tofa's votes also cut across ethnic divide. He won in Abia State. He also won in Rivers. So you could see that Nigerians have the potential to unite across ethnic and religious divide. So it was a demonstration of unity by Nigerians from all spheres of life. And it was quite unfortunate that at the end of the day, that election had to be cancelled. So I think the election was free, because I was going from one polling booth to the other. I didn't see any military on the highways, on the streets. Policemen were not carrying weapons. People expressed their will out of free conviction, that this is the kind of person they wanted to be there. And I think Abiola was prepared for that. He had a fantastic blueprint, abolition of poverty. And he was drumming this all over the world. He had figures about the economy, about the oil, and he had a plan of transformation for the country. So I think it was a huge opportunity that we missed. It also showed the infinite capacity of man, to commit evil. Because I never imagined that people can rise to the extent of annulling that kind of election, given all the global, excitement that was associated with it. It also shows that some Nigerians have the capacity to support evil, irrespective of just for personal interest, because there were few individuals on the fringe who also supported the annulment of June 12. But as it is, that issue will never go away. And we are glad that at the end of the day, a government has come to recognize June 12 as a watershed in Nigerian history.
Okay, Jide, why is June 12 so memorable and necessary compared to other dates?
Because it was a truly special election. We've been having elections in 1959, since 1959, by-election 1961, and then 1963 election, which ultimately led to the wet year episode. No one election unified Nigerians the way June 12 did. No one election showed, or has shown even since then, that Nigerians can be truly purposeful, truly focused, on one goal and go ahead to achieve that goal. Yes, the fact that even some of the very conservative northern states, supported Bashir Tofa was also something that made the election special, because it wasn't like people made up their minds that, look, we are going to simply vote for this person because he's from our area. No, that was not the goal. People made up their minds that whatever the religion of the candidates, whatever the ethnicity of the candidates, the SDP candidates, that they were going to vote for them. In today's world, you can imagine having the presidential candidate of a major political party come from the same from the same religion. You can't even think about it in today's Nigeria. Talk less of bringing it to fruition. No party in today's Nigeria, given how fractured our unity is, would even contemplate bringing the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate from the same religion. So for some of us, we were already thinking, well, the democracy was beginning to grow in our country, and it showed that, look, the people were desperate to just hiss the military out. Let the military go. We were not thinking about ethnicity at all. The military had done their bit. They had been cancelling even their own transitions, wasting money on transitions that they knew were heading nowhere. But Nigerians stood firm that, yes, we like this person. And Abiola was a very sociable person. In the core north, he was well known. Very famous with the traditional institution in the north, and he supported worthy causes. Whenever there was fire incident in any part of Nigeria, and in the north especially, Abiola would be the first person to respond by offering the people some palliative measures and all that. So the election was free and fair. If you look back, we can say, okay, we are in a much more modern era. But are elections free and fair at this time? People, what we now have in our country is a situation in which people just snatch ballot boxes. That was not the character of the June 12 election. I didn't see anybody snatch a single ballot box or disrupt people who were on the queue.
Or go to one hotel to go and write results.
Yes, and I didn't see a situation in which soldiers will storm a collation center, as it happened in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State. Their soldiers were hell-bent on rigging the last election to the point that they stormed. Women were the ones who said, no, you are not going to come and rig election here. Soldiers. So This is, and that was a military rule, yet that didn't happen. So there are many things that when you look back at that election, you are going to think that, you just wish that Nigeria did not lose that opportunity. Because look, the truth is, when you look at the US, for example, the US, we've had, I think this is their 46th president. More than 37 or 38 of the presidents have come from the North, American presidents. Mm-hmm. I think only about 7 or so have come from the South. And it is not an issue over there.
It has never been an issue.
It's not an issue.
In fact, this is the first time.
Yes, this is the thing.
I'm not thinking.
Yes.
I've never observed.
It is not an issue for them. It is not an issue for them. Just about 7 from the South. But you can imagine if we have that situation in Nigeria, people's blood will boil, they will complain. In the UK, Wales have not produced Prime Minister. But they are not killing themselves over it. Democracy will get to a point in our country where only the competent will emerge as leaders of the people. That is what June 12 signposts. The memory of June 12 tells us that on that day, the people were simply voting for who they thought was the better candidate, not where that person comes from. I've also said before on this program that there was also a time when both the number 1 man in our country and the number 2 were Christians. And the heavens didn't fall.
Yeah. Like one time.
Gawan and Way. They were both Christians. And you know how long Gawan was head of state. And the heavens didn't fall. I can tell you, people could say, okay, it was a military head of state. Today, even under a military rule, if we were to go back to a military rule, God forbid, we are so fractured now that you can't even contemplate that. Yeah. To have both the number 1 military man and his deputy from the same religion. So I just hope that we can continue to grow in democracy to the point that we will choose only the best and think less about ethnicity, think less about religion.
Okay, Wale, after the 1st of October, which is Nigeria's independence anniversary, no dates evoke much significance for the whole country, like June 12, on the 1st of October, that 1960 Nigerians acted in one accord and end colonialism, while on the 12th of June 1993, they spoke with one voice to enthrone democracy. President Muhammadu Buhari realized this, and when he changed the democracy day to May 29th, and this day is so significant. So, for me, why is June 12 so memorable to you?
It's memorable in the sense that it shows that Nigerians can actually overcome ethnic, religious, and cultural divide. Irrespective of how we are cleaning ourselves, and that these problems are not natural. All this ethnic divide, all these killings, they are not natural, they are artificial. And that we have the potential, just like the way we usually unite in football. When Nigeria is playing against any country, everybody comes together to unite. You know, Kingibe, Abiola's VP, is a Kanuri man. Abiola, a Yoruba man. Kingibe was not outside, was not Fulani. From the northeast, yet everybody all over the country voted for these two people. And they were both Christian, and they were both Muslims. So it shows that when you look at what is going on now, that they are all man-made. That naturally Nigerians are not like this. But policies of exclusion, policies of extinction has brought out the bad things in all of us. And it shows that those in power, there is a reference they can always refer to. That at a point in time, Nigerians united. So how come that we cannot go back to that era again? What are those things that were done to make Nigeria come together to see themselves as brothers? So in the midst of this division, in the midst of these killings, in the midst of this deepening ethnic suspicion, it shows that we have something we can reference as a source of hope. If we actually have leaders that are genuinely committed to a new Nigeria. Because we have done it before. We have united, irrespective of our divide. So it means that, we can resolve the problems that are confronting us if we have honest leaders, if we have genuine leaders, and you have people who have a deep sense of history. So I think June 12 is more important to many people because, of course, the actors are still alive. And of course, it also shows that Nigeria has the capacity to conduct free and fair election, even though we have all sorts of malpractices going on today. So I think it means so many things to us that it's a day that we can never forget.
Okay, I have Easy calling us from Yenugu, that same Bayelsa State. Thank you for staying with us.
How is everything today?
Very well, thank you, Easy.
Happy Democracy Day, Babajide. And the guest still.
Thank you.
You see, the memory of Democracy Day and urgently the need for Nigerians to appreciate the President Muhammad Buhari and the APC for recognizing the importance of June 12 cannot be overemphasized.
Yes.
As it stands as a historical day in our political history. In fact, it symbolizes selfless service and commitment of leadership philosophy, devoid of religious, ethnic sentiments that have brought us down and below our national unity, which most politicians and the system lack today. What June 12 implies today is that politicians have not learned any lesson from that event ahead of our history. In fact, as a matter of fact, it is very glaring. Nigerians should demolish sectorial fences and build bridges across the Niger to the Sahara for integration and national unity, like what the current Minister for State Petroleum and leader of APC in Bayelsa State, Chief State Principal, is doing currently in this country. He has gone down to ensure that we stay so united and ensure that we build our body policy. If you trace back to June 12, 1993, you see the spirit with which Nigerians came out to vote. Like Babajide said today, Nigerians cannot vote a Muslim ticket. It's not possible.
Thank you. Thank you, Izzy, for your contribution from Yenugu and Bayelsa State. A trailblazer in our electoral process, a watershed in the country's democratic struggle, a symbolic date for the unity of Nigeria. June 12 is of significant essence for the country. But what is its value? Jide, the value of this date,
Yes.
the 28 years after, that value, as a young man, after the June 12 thing, they struggled 2-3 years after, some some southern states, they still declare public holiday, but Nigeria wasn't speaking with one voice on June 12. Maybe sometimes Lagos, sometimes Osun, sometimes we just have, so like that, but it wasn't a national thing. Now, 28 years after, if you have a daughter or a son of 28 years, now you can now lecture that person that this is the real value of what happened in 1993.
Yes. June 12 has come to be seen as a thermometer for measuring the unity of our nation. Because on that day, Nigerians spoke as one. The things dividing us now shamelessly as a people, we put those things aside on that day. It's like utopia in today's Nigeria. To even think of it in today's Nigeria is utopia. Utopia like something that is unrealizable. Something that you merely mouth it. It is impossible to make it happen. So June 12 has raised the bar for us. And as Nigerians, we must begin to try to bring ourselves back to that level. That level when we will see each other simply as brothers and as sisters, not as competitors within the Nigerian Federation, because that's how we see ourselves now. We see ourselves as competitors, we see ourselves as more or less as enemies. We think
and
that
some will see some other people as inferior and
yes, that these ones are inferior, these ones are slaves, these ones are, they don't have equal stake.
Yes, they are outcasts.
Yes, you know, which is very the Osu thing. When we were growing up, we read a lot about Osu caste in the southeast and all that. I hope that it has become a thing of the past. Now, in Nigeria, where everyone sees his neighbor as a brother,
stakeholder,
a brother, that nothing must happen to him, nothing negative must happen to him. That is the message from June 12. That is the value that June 12 has. And as individuals, and as a people, we must bring ourselves back to that level. And the result
of Abiola reflected that.
No, Abiola never discriminated against any race.
Up north.
He never discriminated. If you knew him closely, Abiola was good to everyone, generous to everyone that he met. So he was not discriminating on the basis of religion or on the basis of ethnicity. And the people gave him their votes as a way of rewarding him for the kind of person that he typified. So I hope that we can find an individual within the political firmament who will be able to unite us just as this man, whom we will be able to vote for, not caring whether he's Muslim or is Christian. In the House of Reps now, the House of Reps Speaker and his deputy, they are both Muslim. It is not an issue. You cannot doubt the fact that the House of Reps Speaker is capable and very and both of them are Muslim. But it's not an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. That is the point that we are making. It shouldn't be an issue in 2021. Because in 1993 it was not an issue. So are we going back or simply forging ahead? By living the ideals of June 12 in our hearts, by keeping the value of June 12 stored in the inner recesses of our hearts, we are showing that we are better Nigerians, committed to the future of a Nigeria that is united and indivisible. Unfortunately, our politicians, rogue politicians, they do not want us to unite. They bring ethnic issues to divide us.
Religion.
And the unfortunate thing is that the people who are even behind this, they are educated, they know how important it is for our people to unite. But those greedy lots, they profit from our disunity. So June 12 is something that we should always think about. The only time we appear to come together as a people is when we are playing a football match. Football match, Nigerians, when we win, we hug one another. We don't want to know whether this one is a headsman, whether this one is Fulani, whether this one is...
let me quickly take this call. Lekon is calling from Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you for joining us, Lekon.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Very well, thank you. Nice to have you all the way from Boston.
Okay. So my contribution this morning is that, to me, I see that Nigeria has three major problems. The first thing I see is the problem of greed, religion, and tribalism. Like in every developed world, these are the three things that are kind of separated from governments in all the developed countries. So like you said, in June 12, Abiola represented the unity of Nigeria. Until the time we begin to come back together as one, that's the only time Nigeria will begin to make a lot of progress. And like you guys normally say, you informed us a lot, and we guys that were in the diaspora, we follow you guys. You're the one that really make us know what is truly going on in Nigeria. And as Baba used to say, Nigerians in the diaspora, we are doing very well. we have a lot of knowledge and experience that we can bring home for Nigeria to become a better place.
Yeah.
The only problem that we have is these three things: greed, religion, and tribalism. If we put all these three things in check, I think Nigeria is a great nation, and Nigeria will be part of the greatest nation in the world. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling all the way from the rest of
I wish we can put
Massachusetts.
the message from him is that Nigeria will be a truly great nation when we can put all of these issues that divide us
sentiments
aside. And I think even great nations of the world, some of those nations are envious of Nigeria. They know that there is so much potential here.
Strengths.
We have not been lucky to have good leaders. But the potential of Nigeria is tremendous. The day or when we begin to have a succession of very good leaders, maybe like 3 solid leaders on the bounce, the world will take notice of Nigeria. Mandela didn't just mention Nigeria, he saw his own country. He didn't say, he said Nigeria is the true giant of Africa. There is a reason behind that. And these politicians dividing us must know that they are the enemies of our country, bent on ensuring that our country does not reach its true potential.
Wally, what's the value of this same June 12 to you? I remember in those days, I was still in the University of Lagos.
Yeah.
The Red Drum was our student union president.
Olusegun Mayegun.
Red Drum led us to Ikorodu Road. That was my first experience. Left my hostel, followed Mayegun down to Ikorodu Road to go and demonstrate.
I think we had a very progressive lance at that time. I remember I was arrested with Mayegun, Beko Rasomkuti, Mike Rasomkuti, Afiku Yomi, Chima Obani. Even though I was a reporter with the guy, we were all arrested at Yaba and kept, for 3 days. It was Gani Fahimi that was feeding us, and then it was our lawyer when we appeared, in court. And I think one significant thing, like Jide said, is that never must we go back to military rule. Never. No matter the challenges that we have. Because if in 1993 we have had a democratic government, I don't think we'll have been where we are today. So that government set Nigeria backwards in terms of economy. Do you know how many newspapers collapsed that were shut down because they were fighting for June 12? African Concord, African Guardian, even those that are living now, they are still, the scars are still there. Then the Concord Airlines, Concord Bread, Community Bread, Concord Community Newspapers, bookshops,
Abiola Bookshop,
Tile Magazine, Newswatch, so many business empires. A lot of people had to travel abroad,
And this Punch too was prescribed.
Yeah, Punch was prescribed. I was in Ghana, we were prescribed for 13 months. You can, and up to today, nobody is talking about compensation. Then the other lesson is resilience. Perseverance. The people stood on their ground. Even in the face of ferocious military machine, we were having stay at home for days, 7 days. Don't go out, stay at home.
I remember Chief.
Of course, we were having the meeting at Maria Street.
Anthony. Yes.
I attended all the meetings.
Number 7 or
I think number 4.
I remember that.
They petrol bombed Beko's home. He was arrested. Baba Mojala was detained. Shehu Sonny, all of them were persecuted. But people did not give up. People stood on their ground and look, we are not, even though the people were being killed on the street on July 7, 1993, a lot of people were shot on the street of Lagos. UAD, all of them. But people didn't give up. People didn't give up. And then we should give kudos to Abiola. He also was resilient. He didn't give up. Even though he died.
Not many people expected that.
Not many people expected that. Even though he died. But he died in a dignified way. He died as a hero.
Yes.
So if he had given up, probably nobody will remember him today. Then I also think that people should remember that when you are making sacrifices for something that is good, the reward will come. It may not come immediately.
Yes.
But at the end of the day,
it stood for
a lot
something.
of even Ashwadu, Tinubu, all of them, they were all involved.
Years after,
they gave everything they had. Fahimi and all of them. And at the end of the day, the military was removed, in spite of all the weapons and everything they had. The other lesson is that if you are in power, do what is right. No matter the good things that Babangida did, once you mention June 12, it's a bad, it's a dark spot.
That's a terrible
spot.
We take that to his grave.
Yes.
And it wasn't that he wanted to, it wasn't that he planned to annul the election. Soldiers came to him, surrounded him, put pressure on him.
Till today, he has not told us in his book.
Yes, but his son granted an interview in the 90s. I still remember where he said they put my dad in the middle. They surrounded him and told him he must not let Abiola become president.
I think General Babangida, I know sometimes he watches the program. General Babangida,
he watches it a lot.
Just put the book together.
He has made up his mind. And that's the same general. He's asking me, when am I going to write my book?
Yes, I remember.
President Babangida is asking me, Jide, when are you going to write a book on the military? You know so much about the military. But his own book about June 12, we are waiting. We are waiting. So instead of asking me when I'm going to deliver my book on the military.
Was there anybody threatening to shoot Babangida himself in that meeting? According to
even the minutes of the meeting.
There are things, you know, there are things that go to the grave with some people. I just hope that this will not go into the grave with him. Because if he wanted to write, he will have written before now. And some of the people who are behind this, they are even dying one by one.
If you remember, Humphrey Wosu was the chairman of the NARECOM, the election body that time. NEC.
Commission.
I remember Babangida's PA too, one Professor.
That's is it Yovari or something?
There's nothing about it.
Is it from Delta Edo?
Democracy movement.
No, it's from Edo.
Something Uji, you know.
To write one or two things down, but it's not as comprehensive as what
people know what happened. They just don't want to mention particular names. But I've seen something that Momori wrote that gives a kind of hint into what happened before Babangida suddenly, you know, because they were delaying. The results should have been announced immediately. They kept delaying. At that time, the news came out with a cover story where we said conspiracy. We titled the conspiracy. And it was that edition that caused them to proscribe the news.
We have Michael. Michael is calling us from Makurdi. That's in Benue State.
Hello?
Thank you for joining us, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Ayo. My question is directed at Babajide.
Okay.
Chief Tonyanini, who was the chairman of SDP. As of that time,
yes,
he said in his book, My Life and the Nigerian Politics, he alleged that MK Abiola kept the leadership of the party in the dark when he entered into an agreement with Abacha to take over from NS Sonuku and hand over either immediately or the next day. So I want Babajide to clarify things based on this.
I wouldn't be able to confirm whether he had an intention, whether he had a pact with Abacha. But one thing I can say as a journalist who practiced during that era is that Abacha tried to portray himself like someone who could yield to the wish of the people. You know, when President Babangida was leaving, he left Abacha. And his argument at that time was that the interim national government needed a strong person to hold it together. Now, some of us some people warned us when we were praising Abacha and presenting him as a new broom, that this person probably had his own agenda. Many of us thought that after chasing away Shonekon, Abacha will eventually
hand over to
because the campaign for Abiola was still very much on. But Abacha harbored the intention of becoming president himself, and President Babangida wanted to reward him for the role he played in aborting the 1990 coup of Gideon Oka, because he was the one who
left him behind.
Who said, look, take the number one, go and keep number one somewhere. And President Babangida was whisked away from the damn barracks and hidden somewhere. So if Abacha wanted to be head of state, he could have become head of state during that era when there was so much confusion on the day of that coup. But he showed loyalty and kept the president safe. So we wouldn't know what was in the minds of IBB. But one thing I know is on a particular day, IBB was shaking generals who were standing to receive him at an event. And when he got to Abacha, General Abacha, he shook his hands and said something that suggested that he was the next in line. Because they were already, there was already a nickname that they gave Abacha at that time that suggested that he could be the next head of state. He called him Khalifa. He just called him Khalifa. Okay. So Abacha was kind of surprised when he called him Khalifa. He shook his hands and called him Khalifa, meaning successor. So in the military circles, they were already calling him Khalifa because they felt they left him behind so that he can plan his own coup and become. You can imagine Shonekon went to the UN and said democracy was on an irreversible path in Nigeria. A few days later, the same Shonekon was reading a resignation letter.
Was it 71 days after or 81 days after that his government?
He was reading and was telling us that he had resigned. But you told us that democracy was on an irreversible path. Let's not go to that one. But Nigerians will remember that they never saw his picture reading that resignation letter. They just put a still picture. There's a reason for that. Nigerians will know in the fullness of time.
Okay, 28 years ago, Nigeria conducted its first, fairest, and most credible election on June 12, 1993, won by late MK Abiola. But subsequent elections in 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, and 2019 were some sort of caricature in the place of that historical exercise when Nigerians shunned religious, ethnic differences to overwhelmingly vote for MK Abiola. So what is missing? What is the missing link in Nigerian elections 28 years after? Jide, it was the Morisiwu era. It was, for me as a young journalist covering political matters, it was a despicable era. It started from 1999, the Ephraim Akpata. From Ephraim Akpata, it went to Abel Gubadia. From Abel Gubadia, went to Chief Morisiwu. After Morisiwu, that's when we had. So that era, the election we used to have at that time, 1999, 2003, 2007, Jide, any similarity with June 12?
No, no one comes close. And I think that our politicians have even perfected the art of rigging elections in a very mindless and totally irresponsible manner. Ballot box snatching that we didn't see on June 12, we are seeing it now. Since 1999, when this democratic journey began, we've never really had an election that you could hold up, to the world, to say, look, we are proud of. Since 1999, we've not had any election that you can say, look, ticks all the boxes. No, because the elections are always rigged.
Peaceful conduct.
What usually happens is vote allocation. When you see 1 million, 2 million votes from somewhere, a lot of it is vote allocation. That is what is.
At a point in time, sir, the number of registered voters.
Yes.
The
total votes cast.
The election.
The total votes cast. It happened in Ogun State.
It happened in Anambra State.
2003. Obasanjo, his party, got more votes than the number of registered voters.
There's a party
at the Supreme Court where Buhari challenged the election. I was there on the day of the judgment, and they mentioned what happened in Ogun. The votes recorded for the PDP were higher than the number of registered voters in Ogun State.
Is that possible?
We have, but that's not the only place where I'm saying allocation of votes across board.
Yes, in River State.
North, south, west, everywhere.
Anambra.
People. It's only in a few places that you see a semblance of elections, real elections being held. We have now kind of resigned to fate that in Nigeria, it is either we buy the conscience of people or we simply rig the election. That's why even card reader, when we brought card reader as a means of authenticating the voter.
Register and...
In 2015, when we first used it, we achieved about 56%. By the 2019 election, it has come down to 19%. By the off-season election of 2020, held in Bayelsa and Kogi, it had gone down to 16% use of card reader, which means that we are not interested in free and fair election. We just want to rig elections in our country. And when we rig, we think that the courts will help us out. I've seen people rig the elections mindlessly. They went to the court and the court said they were duly elected. So what can one do? How can you compare that to what we saw on June 12? June 12, we didn't even deploy technology. We didn't deploy technology, but the election was free and fair.
Manuel, look at it.
So it's the human beings who are manning the technology that are the issue. It's not technology. When people make up their minds to rig election, no matter what happens, they go ahead, they rig, they beat you up, they chase people away, they use helicopter to chase people away, they tear gas people on election day so that they can rig, and the next thing you see people carrying guns, snatching ballot boxes. I think that we should even go ahead and make the card reader to be backed by law for us to be sure that we are truly interested in free and fair election.
We had that time too where with election there are some regions that nobody that is not in the caucus, that is not penciled down to win, will win. Everything is predictable at a point in time. So it was like 90 winner takes all for some political parties.
Yes. Increasingly, we are having deficit in moral integrity in terms of electoral politics. The 1999 election was better than 2007 election. 2007 election was better than 2011. 2011 better than 2015. 2015 better than. So we are having recession. Year in, year out, you discover that we are going down the drain. And I notice a trend that when you have a situation where about 1 million people, 1 million registered voters, less than 20% go out to vote. A lot of people are losing interest, in the electoral
constantly, if you look at it.
So it means we have a
steady decline.
We are having political leaders who don't claim to emerge through democratic means, but are necessarily they are actually representing their party members, not the people. And I think this has a lot of consequences for stability. It has consequences for growth, because when people don't have confidence in the electoral process, you are going to see a kind of outburst, in many ways, outlet of emotions, in terms of violence that you are seeing, in terms of crime, in terms of disrespect for people in authority. So if we are not careful, we'll be having elections that only party members will go there and vote, and they are going to exclude a large layer of the society who will no longer have trust in the electoral process and who will be compelled to resort to all sorts of means to express themselves. So I think we need to look at this issue critically. I know that in 1999 we made a big error. We were in a hurry to have democratic governance. But after, having that election in 1999, we should have sat down to look at the law, have a new constitution that will lead to a new rebound. But we sustain that groundnut, which is not helpful. And that's why we still have all sorts of challenges.
The general that took over that time, immediately, it was so much in a hurry.
The radical movements were actually divided. Some people were saying, no, let us go to this election, it's not going to help us. Some were saying, no, let us go to this election.
Salam was
whatever.
That time.
Yes. But having won that election in 1999, we should have gone back to the drawing board and lay a new basis for a new constitution that will transform the country. I think we are getting... though we are moving forward anyway, we are no longer where we used to be, but we are far from where we are supposed to be.
Shile is calling us from Yanakwaja in Lagos. Thank you for staying with us, Shile. Hello?
That's great.
Hello? Shile, go ahead. Oh.
Yeah, good evening, Jide.
Good evening.
Okay, go ahead.
Nice to hear you again.
Thanks.
Hello?
Yes, keep
Good
talking.
evening, guys. Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you talk.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
want to appreciate what you guys are doing there. I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing there. This country has been messed up. This country has been seriously messed up by politicians.
All right. Now, moving on now. After 30 months of horror visited on Nigeria as a result of civil war of 1967 to 1970, the word secession became a kind of taboo, mentioned only in hushed tones. Now, the word has lost its respect and became cheap. Secessionist campaigns and agitations for self-determinations have become so rampant that non-state actors are feeling calls for the disintegration of Nigeria. Has national unity become elusive for the world's most populous black country? Babajide, now, yesterday when I was monitoring the June12 protests across the country, or the June12 Democracy Day celebration, I saw protests across the world. Some for the government, some against the government. Another one took another dimension, people asking for Ududua Republic, Yoruba Nation. Other people are asking for Biafra. In London, I think it was a joint rally that they had. Some were holding IPOB flag, and the others were holding the Ududua thing. Now, it's now becoming so loud and clear. That call, especially from Nigerians in diasporas and Nigerians inside
Yes.
within the country.
Yes, Nigerians in diaspora are the ones financing individuals who are pushing for the disintegration of the Nigerian state. Some of them have given up on our country. They think that we will be better off to go our separate ways. And I've seen even our friends from the north saying, look, there's no need for us to go to war. War is expensive. Let the east, people of the east, just go like that. And I shook my head that, do these people know what they are talking about? Nigeria is a greater nation when it is together. I do not support the fragmentation of our country, and I will not support anyone calling for it. And people need to realize that the people who are pushing for it are in the minority. We saw what happened in the East, where those youths came out. They even went to demonstrate in the UK
Embassy.
High Commission. To say, see, this person is causing so much trouble in our part of the country. We do not support him. The worst that can happen is for people to start casting everybody in a particular area as someone who wants Nigeria to be divided. To look at people from the southeast and simply conclude that
call them Biafran.
Yes, it's irresponsible, because so many of them know that they have no other nation except Nigeria.
So many of them are even more stakeholders
In the Nigerian Federation than us.
in terms of real estate,
yes,
in terms of
so they are not thinking of going anywhere. The people who want to go somewhere else, they know themselves. So leaders from the north and other parts of the country should not cast the people of the southeast as people who have made up their minds that they don't want to be in Nigeria. You have no evidence of that. It's just a few individuals who are fueling this. And I've also heard people say, oh, their leaders should come out and denounce these guys publicly. When Boko Haram was very much in control of Maiduguri, let me use the word control, when they had so many of their men in Maiduguri, if 3 of you were discussing and 1 of you abused Boko Haram, you will not live to see the next day. I remember when President Jonathan went there to do a town hall meeting. Some of the people who spoke publicly at that town hall meeting, they were murdered the next day. Remember also the person who hosted Obasanjo when he went,
yes.
you know, he was murdered. It is the same thing. They murdered so many district heads, and clerics who criticized them publicly in Maiduguri. It's the same thing in the East. If those Eastern elites, they oppose these boys, but they cannot say it publicly for fear of their houses being burnt and for fear of being killed. So people should not see their silence as a support for these guys. Already young people have come out to say, look, we oppose this guy, you know. So I think that is enough. To imagine that in a season when we don't have security, when they cannot be guaranteed of their lives being protected, you expect the Ezra face of this world to come out and say, look, down Biafra, down this. It may not see the next day. And nobody wants to die.
The way they are operating now, yes.
You see, if you simply want them to be like a hero and that they are not fit to be leaders unless they come out to publicly, no, that's not easy.
Even the governors.
Even the governors are being careful. So this is the thing. These agitations for the division of Nigeria, I oppose it. And I oppose also the idea of saying, look, let them go if they want to go. No, it's only a small fraction of the people who are saying they want to go.
The protagonists of Yoruba Nation and everything, we discovered that most of them, they are financiers and everything, they are people based abroad, and they don't know what it is like at home. But it's very, very easy to go on Facebook Live and say all sorts of things because of free data.
I think, like Babagide said, Nigeria as one country has a lot of potentials in terms of population. About 200 million people, in terms of strength, in terms of the beautiful valleys, the greenery, the mountains, you know, it's a wonderful country. That when you go out, you'll be proud of it. That look, I'm from a country of 200 million people. And I think we have a lot of big nations that have been able to make a lot of impact in the world. Countries like China, like India, like Indonesia, biggest.
Like the strength in their diversity.
You know, and even Egypt in Africa, you know, about over 90 million people. So I think there is a lot of greatness. And we are talking about diversity, the plural nature of the society. So there is a lot of greatness in that. But the other issue is that the number of children you have does not determine your prosperity. It does not determine whether your children are happy, or if you have 100 children, they may not be as happy as a family of 3 children. We have seen smaller countries, 5 million, 2 million. The whole of Nordic countries are just 27 million, 5 countries. Norway, Sweden, and all that. So I think what we must emphasize, like Babagide is saying, is that, look, there must be justice. There must be inclusion. There must be fair play. Those are the conditions that we can, the pillars we can put in place, you know, to guarantee sustainable unity, sustainable equity, and unity of the country. Like we are saying that people fund them abroad. But if there are no cracks on the wall, the lizard will not be able to patch. It's because
I agree with you.
Yeah, there are a lot of
what they are hearing from the country,
there are
the vibes, the pressure.
There are situations.
People, if you have a brother abroad now, it's kind of
especially when people cannot go to their farms, when people cannot, women cannot go in the villages in those days. By 1 a.m., a woman will, go and go to the toilet or go to the stream. Even 5 a.m. you wake up, but you can't do that any longer. The forests are being taken over by armed terrorists, and it appears people are losing hope gradually in the future of the country. So we need to do something very fast.
And the issues of inequity
exclusion. So we need to do a lot of things.
All right, we'll quickly take this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and we are touching down on June 12, 1993 election. That's 28 years after. Babajide, one of the things that we've identified over and over again, fueling this self-determination and secession call, is that of lack of people on a daily basis feel the kind of a sense of exclusion fueled by this particular administration. That's the Buhari-led administration, because we've never had it this bad since 1999. Yes, we've been hearing of IPOB, MASOB, and everything, but it has gotten
the mandate to control them. We had MASOB, but they controlled it. Didn't get to this extent.
We had Odua People's Congress. We had a coalition of Odua self-determination, COSIG, since when? But right now that we have people calling for Odua Republic all over the world and within the country, we've never had it this bad. I think there's something this government has refused to do.
Yes, and even from one of the big issues is the flagrant disregard of the federal character principle. The federal character principle is enabled by the Constitution, and there is even a commission that is mandated by law to promote it and advise government where necessary.
I think the founders of our country, they saw that, look, because of our diversity,
yes,
we would need such a thing.
There were tools. Even in the aftermath of the Civil War, there were tools that the government came up with to deepen unity in our country and promote integration. And things like unity schools, for example, to help Nigerians know their country a lot more. Yeah. You had a situation at that time that exchange students, they will go to Jos. You could be sent from go to the federal government colleges, King's College, and the rest of the unity schools. Now we also have that federal character principle. The fact that a president has the power to make choices, to make appointments, does not mean that at all times he will be looking simply at merit. No. You heard what the president said in that interview. He clearly refused to address the issue that
the president was talking about merit.
Merit.
But
now what people are saying is, okay, you are talking about merit.
Delicate.
In a large country, you will always find so many people that you could appoint based on merit. There's no sphere of life that you will not find Nigerians who have merit.
Even the military is talking about.
Whether it's the military or the police, for every person of merit that you find, there will be several others. Some of them even more qualified than the person that you have chosen. So the federal character principle, just like the Senate emphasized the other day, we've got to respect it. All of these measures are embarrassing, and it is fueling all these secessionist cause. The truth is, if we fail to address those issues, the problem, these calls will remain. It will remain, and for me as a person, is embarrassing. It has to be addressed. And I've had even Northerners say that, look, this is not right, that the president has to do something. But from his interview, you can see that the old man is simply
does not understand what they're talking about, what the agitation is about.
From his response, he betrayed the notion that he does not even have a grasp of the issue.
Causing problem.
Or he does not, he appears to think that it is not inequity that is foiling a lot of these agitations. People will always think that, look, they are being shortchanged. When you see the federal character principle and you apply it only when you like, you must apply it consistently.
I almost gave up on Mr. President when Mr. President said the end SARS protest was people agitating for his removal.
That is what he was told.
Oh,
that is what like, some of his aides.
How can this man be disconnected?
Meanwhile, the same president, the same president at the tick of the end SARS, he came out to say your agitation is legitimate.
Someone went to go and give him letter.
That these are their demands. And they did not include the removal of the president among those demands. Only the National Assembly can.
He said we are working on it.
Only if in his speech, go and read the president's speech again. He said your demands, your agitation is legitimate. He even said that when he saw, I think it's the VP that said when he saw some of those videos of extrajudicial killings by the police, that he was embarrassed. Only somebody who is out of this world would not know the value of having a police that respects fundamental human rights. That is the sort of police that we need. And that's why I keep saying that, look, this NSAS thing, I supported it at the beginning. I have no regret at all. But the resort to violence is what we are against. But if it was purely to help us reform the police, then there was nothing wrong about that.
Now, the military junta of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida stirred the hornet's nest when it annulled the June 12 election on June 24, 1993. It ignited unprecedented nationwide protests that sounded the death knell on the regime of IBB and put the heat on that of General Sani Abacha. Nigeria's pro-democracy credentials were forged in the furnace of those heated times. Now, so why June 12 protests and its implication? The June 12 protests that we're talking about now, yesterday, we're meant to be having Democracy Day. But across the country, there was this protest, massive protest. Now, the one I don't buy, the one calling for the exit of Mr. President. Now, you can only remove President Muhammadu Buhari through the National Assembly by the way of impeachment, or if President Buhari resigns, or wait for 2023. It's if you go to the poll as recent as 2019 to vote for a president, he has 4 years to spend. So, but this protest is part of democracy.
Protests are, the oil that you need to lubricate the engine of democracy. And I think the president is also part of that history.
Yes.
During, the campaign against Jonathan and all that.
Yes. The joint protest.
So, and the masses
protested.
So we should not be surprised to see protests during democratic means. In the democratic space. What is important for us is to be able to rise above such issues. Understand that they are part and parcel of democracy, and to be able to ensure that we address them in a constructive way. But to say that the solution is people should not protest, it will not happen. People in PDP, for instance, who, no matter what the president does, whether it is good or not, they want him out, if possible, tonight. They will carry placards and say, we don't want to be there. No matter whatever he does, it's not their business, because therefore, they want to see him out. So, but I think this culture of people coming out and then you are rolling out tanks, it's not something I do not expect.
Kind of force,
or even asking for permission to protest. No.
I don't think
there's no law that says you must take permission to protest.
Right.
And a lot of people say that we have bandits holding territories, Boko Haram holding territories, and this kind of
look at
these
policemen patrolling the streets, seemingly idle. You can send them to those places. Let them go and test their
the bandits. So we will not see the difference of this.
Instead of attacking defenseless people, I've seen some of them beating up people. Once they do not resort to violence, it's irresponsible of policemen to begin to beat up people.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. It shows how barbaric we are as a people. Why are you beating them? People have a right to protest. President Buhari had joined protests in the past. It's there. The videos are there. Who beat him up when he was protesting? You can't come home and say people should not protest. The fact that a protest was hijacked, the fact that a protest is not this, go to Niger State and parade Shiroro like this.
In Shiroro?
Yes, go to Rafi local government, parade the street like this. Let us see. That's not what we are not after this. Yesterday, they still killed more than 50 people in Zamfara. We don't have enough soldiers and policemen. There are more bandits in Zamfara than our security forces put together in that area. So what are we talking about? Let the president send at least more troops to that area to help them defeat the bandits.
Okay, we'll take this break again. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still the Democracy Day special of Journalist Hangouts. We'll be right back after this time. Please stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. In the spirit of June 12 Democracy Day, Saturday's episodes of Issues with Jide on YouTube platform dwelled on what this administration has done in some areas. Let's share that episode with you.
This is the sound of change.
The sound of for older Nigerians, as it was on this date that presidential elections were held for the first time since the 1983 military coup, an election many observers to this day describe as the freest and fairest ever held in Nigeria. And from the Fourth Republic until 2019, Democracy Day was celebrated on May the 29th annually, the day the country transitioned to democracy. However, in 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari acceded to years of agitation by Nigerians for the immortalization of MKO Abiola matter and the acclaimed winner of the annulled June 12, 1993 presidential election. It's another June 12 celebration, and 3 years after President Buhari made that landmark decision to set June 12 as Democracy Day, how has this enhanced our democratic values? Perhaps, and more importantly, how close is Nigeria to the realization of the transformation promised in Hope 93, the campaign slogan of the then Social Democratic Party, or bringing it closer home? Let's reflect on the promised change of the All Progressives Congress as contained in its three-pronged campaign of fighting corruption, tackling insecurity, and revamping the economy. Welcome to Issues with Jide, a Democracy Day special edition. I am Bukola Samuel Remimo. And we're so glad you could join us today. It's Democracy Day. Happy Democracy Day, Nigerians. And we're reaching you live on our YouTube channel. Of course, your preferred seasoned analyst is in the house and is ever glad to share his views about issues concerning Nigeria. Welcome, BKO.
Thank you so much.
And happy Democracy Day.
It's a great thing to be alive, to see June 12 celebrated as the authentic Democracy Day of Nigeria.
And as we continue the conversation, let's hope that the authentic values of June 12 is what we're seeing today. Let's start with infrastructure, BKO. What's on ground as against what has been available to the APC-led government in terms of finances in infrastructure that we're seeing today?
Yeah, I think that one area where you can objectively analyze things and score the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration good marks is in the area of infrastructure. Naturally, given the paucity of funds caused largely by decline in oil prices, global oil prices, you would not expect to see a lot of what the government has done in the area of infrastructure. But President Buhari came in determined to change things. I still remember that interview that he had with the TVC in Daura, where he promised to revive rail transport. He said he was not so concerned about air transport because that is the favorite mode of commuting by the elites, and that he would rather focus on rail infrastructure. And his lived up to that promise because they've done so much in that area. Yes, the Abuja-Kaduna rail line was more than 95% completed by the Goodluck Jonathan administration. In fact, it was even inaugurated or commissioned, as Nigerians like to wrongly call official official celebration of such events. But the government has built on that, giving us the Lagos-Ibadan rail corridor, and they are also doing their best to even link Apapa Port, the heavily congested Apapa Port, by rail. So the minister, Rotimi Amechi, has focused tremendously on that, and people are seeing the results already. And they are doing very well also in terms of roads. I think the president got himself a good and capable Nigerian engineer as the head of FEMA, which is in charge of the rehabilitation of federal roads. You know, he used to work with the PTF, where the president also once worked.
Yeah.
And we can see the impact of FEMA on our roads. Then, of course, someone like Babatunde Rajifashola, a man who has already been associated with hard work, with success stories.
In terms of infrastructure?
In terms of infrastructure in Lagos. He is the Minister of Works. So you expect that so much will be done. Fashola is doing a good job on the second Niger Bridge. Again, another project inherited and originally financed by the PDP administration of Goodluck Jonathan using the Sovereign Wealth Fund. You know, it's not as if this government started it from the scratch. The foundation was laid by the Goodluck Jonathan administration, the seed money provided by the Goodluck Jonathan administration, but this government is taking it a notch higher. They're working hard along that corridor. They are going to deliver a sumptuous second Niger Bridge for us. So I'm excited about that. And then you can see what's going on in respect of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That project was delayed initially because government had to look at how it could finance the project and even recalibrate it in terms of re-engineer it in a way that it could be delivered within the available resources. So they've done well. We are confident that by next year, that road should be done and dusted. You know, we expected that the Obasanjo administration would have finished that road, finished the construction of that road, but it didn't happen. Goodluck Jonathan came, and with financing from the infrastructure bank, we saw so much work being done in that along that corridor, and this government has also come in to do that. So in terms of infrastructure, transportation is part of infrastructure, roads and all that, you've got to give them high marks. Imagine going into a Nigerian tertiary institution and seeing some of the roads that Babatunde Fashola has done in those schools. You are going to be impressed if you are going to your alma mater, visiting your alma mater after more than 5 years, and you see new roads that Fashola has built in that place. That is the value of putting a capable person in a very strategic position. And the president is reaping the benefits of that. Where you see us lagging behind, you need to look closely at the person that the president has put in such areas. Yes, you need to look closely at them. You will reap bountifully when you put square pegs in square holes or round pegs in round holes. So this is what we are seeing in the area of infrastructure. Both Fashola and the Minister of Transport, they've done very well. Rail transportation, in terms of putting it together, is very expensive. But even when you are talking about optics, it's something that you like to see. You are excited, and we want this to continue.
To find the nation's landmark.
Yes.
As much as I'd like us to look at sustainability of the infrastructure, particularly the standard gauge rail lines being put up, I want us to manage our time, BQ. Let's go to the economy. And people are asking why Nigeria is not exactly making progress in that regard. Let's look at gross domestic product, which is a very important yardstick for measuring growth. In 2016, the economy grew by minus 1.62, 2017, 0.81, 2018, 1.92, 2019, 2.21. Is it a problem of the officials' position to man the economy's gateway, or is it the policies?
I don't think the policies have been good enough. We've got to tell ourselves the truth. I think that we can do better than we are doing currently. I try to measure progress by simply looking at price and quantity. When you adopt that method, yes, people could say, oh, that's too revolutionary, but that is what leads you to the truth, the real truth. If, for example, you are telling us that you have done so well, you are making progress in the area of agriculture, I want to see, or I want to know at what prices you are buying commodities. You are buying grains, for example. If the prices don't come down, I'm going to be asking questions, because I am interested in availability and price. When it's available, at what price? So if we are buying a bag of beans at 72,000 naira, that means price is not coming down, it's going up. The goal is for price to come down. Once you make agri-produce available, which is the goal of investing so much in agriculture, once people can find agri-produce to buy, the price naturally ought to come down. If the price doesn't come down, then it questions the huge investment by the CBN, for example, on agriculture, the Anchor Borrowers Program, because it's expensive, and the rate of even repayment of the loan is not impressive. It's about 30%. So if people are still buying grains, rice, and the rest of them at a very high price, it means that we are not achieving our aim. It means that we have a lot of problems in that area. Then you look at debt. Yes, people will say our debt to GDP ratio is impressive, but that is because people are not looking at our capacity to earn revenue. Debt is going higher. So it's not something to be happy about, because at the same time, reserves, our foreign reserves, are going down. So all of these indicators, exchange rate, prices of goods and services that are skyrocketing, inflation going up, even interest rate is climbing, and the cost of doing business in our country is also climbing. So you've got to ask questions about the management of the Nigerian economy. You look at a country like Saudi Arabia, you look at the exchange rate, because the naira now has fallen further down against the dollar. It has crossed the 500 naira mark. In the last 10 years, the Saudi currency has not gone down more than 5% to the dollar. That is a country supporting its currency, and we are seeing the results. In our own case, we are spending so much money defending the naira, supporting our currency, but we are not getting the results. Because when this CBN governor took over, the naira exchanged to the US dollar by less than 200 naira, around 185 to US dollar. But today we are around 502 naira to a dollar. That is in the parallel market, which is the closest to reality. So we've got to do something about our economy. For now, I cannot score this government high marks in the area of the economy, because if you look at all the parameters, all the indicators that development economists would like to use in measuring economic growth and development, we have not done very well.
What did the government do? Why did the border closure, for instance, not impact favorably on the agriculture sector? You know, not too far from 2021, in 2015, Nigerians still bought a bag of rice for between 5,000 and 7,000 naira. Today, the most realistic price of a bag of rice is 27,000 naira.
But I don't even think that the closure of the border achieved anything meaningful. We were just deceiving ourselves in terms of the success, the alleged successes recorded by it. I do not want to believe. I was in the north. I traveled to Katsina State during the border closure, and I could see people bringing in smuggled rice in the Jibia area, because
I still have the videos on my phone.
Because I saw them, not that they told me. Of course, I went to the Jibia area. I visited the Shimfida to interview bandits. Although that area, I don't think I can go back there now, because things are a lot worse now. I saw people bringing in rice. So there are too many areas through which contraband products come into our country. Many of the smugglers don't use the identified entry and exit points into our country. So you are not, if you are hoping that, the borders have been closed, therefore these things won't come in, then you are on a long term, you're wasting your time. So this is the truth. I don't think that policy worked. We just wasted time, and our people lost money for nothing. Today, you can see that the smuggling of petroleum products is on an all-time high now. Yet, it was one of the reasons we wasted people's time by closing the borders. But now, it's like they are free. The tankers are passing through the border in convoys. That's what's going on now.
Perhaps it has to do with what the APC promised to do in 2015 that it has not done. Let's go to its manifesto. It promised to balance economic development throughout the regions by establishing regional economic development agencies, which it has not done unless we have missed it. BKO, let's look at that again. Could that make any difference?
I do not. I need to read up thoroughly on how they intended to achieve that, But the truth is, I don't see how you want to achieve that. There are areas, I listened to the governors, for example, who said, look, let us develop our ports. We have more than 23 ports in our country. We are so blessed by God, but we still prefer to patronize the heavily congested Lagos ports. Now, the governors were thinking, if we develop those ports, we would be developing new economies across our country. But we are not doing that. Yes, we could have dry ports in places like Kaduna and the rest of them to yield dividends, but we have not seen any concerted effort to engender economic growth across states and regions in our country. I've not seen that plan. Yes, efforts have been made to develop SMEs, to empower people, but it amounts in the final analysis to some form of tokenism. I don't think those efforts are enough to engender the kind of economic growth across the landscape as you and I will expect to see.
Perhaps because governors have been working, extremely in a single-minded fashion. We recall development agenda for Western Nigeria, which has not particularly taken off. As we chart a course for the next 2 years of the APC government, perhaps this should be something that should be pursued vigorously. What are your thoughts?
The development agenda for Western Nigeria, yes, that is a regional ambition, so to say, a regional project. We can't tell the federal government, for example, to begin to do that. The governors of the southwest states, just like the governors of the northwest state, can work hard at integration and even developing the economies of their region. So that is for them to do, and when they do that, they will be helping the Nigerian state as a whole. But I do not think that is the responsibility of the federal government. The federal government has so much to do. We talked about all of the problems that we have in the area of the economy that I believe should keep the federal government busy. So let the states and the geopolitical zones come together and see how they can work together to engender economic growth in their areas.
So we're taking questions. Yes, you can ask BKO your questions. Some have already begun to send in their questions. Murusiku Amuri is asking BKO, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the administration of the APC in the last 6 years? Take note of the state. BKO has addressed the state, security and education.
In the area of security, I will give the APC administration 4 out of 10. They are going to score 4 because they started well. They started well, keeping Boko Haram restricted to the northeast, far-flung areas of the northeast. But in the last 2 years, our country has been going steadily down in the area of security. They've not done well at all. We are seeing banditry on a higher scale, seeing kidnapping. People can no longer sleep freely in their homes. Nigerians are leaving our country to go and sleep in Nigeria Republic. It's that bad. And Boko Haram has moved into the north central Shiroro area of Niger State in particular, and are killing our people for fun. So they can't score more than 4 out of 10 in the area of security. Education, I also will not give them more than 4 because I've not seen anything revolutionary that has been done in the area of education. Education has to be better funded. We have not even aligned ourselves to the UNESCO ceiling, or what is it called, to the UNESCO stipulation in terms of funding, the percentage of funding in the budget that should go to education. We've not been able to do that. When look at some of the countries, smaller countries in Africa are able to even give as much as 30% of their budget to education. We have never met that stipulation. So we have a long way to go in terms of education.
I suspect you say the same thing for the health sector as well. The stipulated funding for the health sector. How satisfactory?
When it comes to health, we are among the worst in the world. using all kinds of parameters to judge our performance. I think only about 5 countries, and some of those 5 countries, Chad among some of those countries, are below Nigeria when it comes to healthcare delivery. We've not done well in the area of health. In Adamawa State, there are Nigerians who leave their communities to go and get themselves treated for all kinds of ailments inside Cameroon. So it is that bad. We have neglected that sector. We've not done well at all.
And even the president still travels for health tourism.
Yes, if our health sector was good enough, why would he or his wife have to travel abroad to get Medicare? So we've not done well in that area.
All right, more questions for you, BK. Let me take this one from Adedipo Badimosi. What is your candid view on President Buhari's speech today?
There's really not so much I can say about the speech. I expected much more. From the president. It just looks so similar to previous speeches. Nothing revolutionary being promised Nigerians. I'm not impressed.
And something similar to it, Rafiu Mustafa is asking, is the present government lacking the knowledge to get it right? Tell me, they want to register their name on the list of people to ever rule this country. Well, I don't understand the second half
You
of
said
that
to
question.
me, all they want is to register their name.
Okay. For the first part.
You see, fate always thrusts leadership on people in Nigeria. Most times people not prepared for leadership. I think that the president can do a lot better than he's doing for us currently as our president, and I think that his overall knowledge of our country was not sufficient at the time he took over. I think that if he had greater knowledge of our country, he could have chosen much better people to work with him. So, because he was not the outgoing type, he didn't have sufficient knowledge to find the right people, and some of the people who were saddled with the responsibility of helping him to choose members of his cabinet, I don't think they cover themselves in glory. I don't think they got for the president the best that we could find, because for critical sectors you simply need the best that you can find.
But Bobikio, very quickly in response to that, someone identified the reason for that challenge just about 30 minutes ago to be because those who came up with the APC manifesto are different from those who have filled the cabinet of President Muhammadu Buhari over time. Commending the manifesto for being comprehensive. For instance, we talked about the regional economic development agencies that they promised to create to balance economic development across regions, which has not seen the light of day at the 6th year of President Buhari's administration.
The president must first believe in all of the items in that manifesto for it to work. As you can see, talking about open grazing, some northern governors do not even think that at this stage we should be talking about open grazing. The governor of Kano is against it. That's the biggest state in northern Nigeria. The governor of Katsina is against it. But we have the president still insistent on cattle rearing in an antiquated form. So when you look at the IPC document, there is restructuring. Restructuring featured prominently because many Nigerians would want to see their country restructured. And so during campaigns, one of the ways by which you can get people to support you, support your party, is to promise restructuring. But the president has an undisguised disinterest in restructuring. So he was not the author of, and he said it before that, look, he was not the one who made those promises. So it's like his party made promises, some promises that did not really sit well with him. So he does not feel obligated to fulfill those promises. Look at the issue, we were talking about the issue of restructuring. All the president needed to do was simply take a good look at the report of the confab. Nigerians came together from north and south. Some of those things that were suggested, the president could take them on board and implement. But he has chosen not to even take a look at the confab report. You know, he has chosen not to take a look at it. So some of those issues, germane issues, he could have tried to implement them, but he chose. So because he is not a believer in restructuring, so his own party promised restructuring. Governor Nasir El-Rufai was the chairman of the committee, but you can see that the president has a lukewarm attitude to restructuring, and he has done nothing.
Saturday's issues with GD on our YouTube platform. You can get more feedback, or you can go and watch it online, and we should see the old episode and this current episode on June 12. I want to thank Wale Adeye. I want to thank you for your contribution today, and that's how much you can take. I want to thank BK himself for this edition of Journalist Hangouts, and that's our package today. Join us tomorrow for a regular episode of the program at 5 p.m.